The United States basketball women's national team, aka Team USA, dominated the 2024 Paris Olympics. They once again went on to win gold, which marked a record 8th consecutive first-place finish in the Summer Games. France, the home team, gave Team USA a run for their money in the championship game, but the Americans ultimately prevailed 67-66. This hard-fought encounter does not take away from the fact that Team USA remains the most dominant force at the international level. The national team's performance in Paris almost made it easy to forget the controversy surrounding the selection process for the players on the squad. In particular, fans made a lot of noise after it was revealed that Team USA coach Cheryl Reeve and her staff decided to snub Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark from the team. At that time, Clark was in the midst of an unprecedented rookie campaign that had her breaking all sorts of records left and right. This is exactly why more than a few fans questioned the national team's decision not to include the 22-year-old on the roster. Now that she has the benefit of hindsight, however, Clark is able to reflect on that controversy with a fresh perspective. In fact, the former Iowa superstar considers the snub to be a blessing. Speaking to Time magazine for her 2024 Athlete of the Year interview, Clark admitted that being left off the national squad for the Paris Games will definitely motivate me my entire career. All this has also fueled the 6-foot guard's strong desire to make amends come the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Clark has already set her sights on making the 2028 squad, identifying it as a huge, huge goal. For what it's worth, Clark was able to make the most out of her time during the Olympic break as the WNBA season went on a 1-month hiatus to give way to the Summer Games. Apparently, she drank 1,000,000 Shirley Temples with her boyfriend, Connor McCaffrey, as they went on vacation at Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, during the break. She rejoined the Fever after her much-needed R&R refreshed and ready to go for the second half of the WNBA campaign. Time Athlete of the Year, Caitlin Clark, shared her excitement for the future of the WNBA and women's sports as a whole. During a conversation with NBC sports producer and broadcaster Maria Taylor at the A Year in Time event in New York on Diekmurzer 11, coinciding with the release of Time's Person of the Year issue, the event also included a performance from Time's Icon of the Year, Elton John, and a conversation with Time's CEO of the Year, Lisa Su. From finishing up her final year in college at the University of Iowa, where she set multiple NCAA Division I records, to completing her first season with the Indiana Fever as WNBA Rookie of the Year, Clark admitted that it has been a whirlwind of a year for her, especially at just age 22. Though she admitted it's hard to wrap my head around the spotlight at times, Clark shared that she takes the responsibility of being a performer and role model for young people very seriously, and she believes this kind of attention is going to become more normal for women's sports players more broadly. It's special to see those young girls and those young boys that bring signs or are with their mom or dad. That's a memory that they're going to share forever, Clark said. I remember my first WNBA game, one of the best memories of my childhood, very influential in wanting to be a professional basketball player, wanting to be a great person. So I just try to embody that every single day. Taylor, who has covered the WNBA for many years, asked Clark about where she sees the WNBA headed after its popularity boom over the past year. a boom that was certainly due, at least in part, to Clark's performances that captivated audiences. Clark said it's impossible to predict that kind of growth that's possible for the sport, pointing to the unexpectedly quick ascent of her own career as well as the giant leaps the WNBA has taken in just a few short years. "I feel like we're just scratching the surface," she said. "If you would have told people this is where the WNBA is 5 years ago, people probably wouldn't have believed you because they never thought that was possible. They never thought people would buy tickets. They never thought we'd play on ABC. Never thought we'd be on ESPN. They never thought there could be sold-out arenas, or little kids wanting to wear WNBA jerseys. The smartest thing to do now," Clark says, "is to invest in women's sports, because the price is only going up." It's something she hinted that she herself hopes to take an even greater part in eventually. "I love basketball," she said, "and hopefully, once playing basketball ends, I can still find things that I'm really passionate about and can do. I'll hopefully be an owner of a sports team one day." Clark also responded to feedback since the publication of the Athlete of the Year article, which Taylor said has been overwhelmingly positive, but has included some negative comments from those like conservative media. Commentator Megyn Kelly, who accused Clark of apologizing for being white. Clark asserted that she believes she's earned every single thing that's happened to her, but she's just as quick to acknowledge the black women that came before her in the WNBA, including her favorite player, Maya Moore. "There's been so many amazing black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them is very important," she said, "and that's something I'm very aware of." On the criticisms from those like Kelly, she added, "I think my best skill is just blocking out the noise, and hopefully it continues to be. Because with the way things are going, and where the WNBA is going, you want that attention, and you embrace it, and that's what makes this so fun." Both on the court and off, Clark seems aware of her impact, though admits that at her young age she is still figuring out life. And after playing 82 games in 2024, she's trying to enjoy the rest she's been afforded before she kicks back into gear for another season. The WNBA is experiencing rapid growth right now, but it hasn't always been this way. When the league officially tipped off in 1997, it started with just 8 teams, 4 in the Eastern Conference and 4 in the Western Conference. Today, only 3 of those original franchises still exist. Recognizing the challenges of having a women's league in the US, Sue Bird, a key player in the league's journey, has some insightful thoughts to share. In a recent episode of A Touch More, Sue Bird teamed up with her wife, Megan, to dive into a few topics surrounding the WNBA. "I look at this from a league perspective, and I think the biggest challenge for women's sports in our country has been finding a league that can really take off," she mentioned. "We've had various leagues in women's basketball, obviously the WNBA included, and honestly, I lose track of the acronyms. There have just been so many leagues." The 22-year-old Iowa native made waves when she joined the Indiana Fever as the #1 overall pick, injecting new energy into the league. From the beginning, Clark's dominance both on and off the court has been evident. Just a few months into the season, arenas were filling up to 94%, a clear sign of the league's growing popularity. You might wonder how she's driving this growth. Well, she's incredibly responsible for a staggering 26% of the WNBA's economic activity. while Clark earns around $76,035 as part of her WNBA contract. That's just about 1% of her total income. Her off-court earnings are through the roof. She racked up a hefty $11.1 million from endorsements, making her the highest-paid player in WNBA history, with a whopping 99% of that coming outside of basketball. Clark has been credited with selling 1 out of every 6 tickets in WNBA arenas during the 2024 season, and the impact doesn't stop there. Just taking the Fever games into account, she has significantly boosted the league's broadcasting value, accounting for 45% of it. What was once a struggling team is now breaking records in viewership. Jason Whitlock has abandoned his support of Caitlin Clark in a hysterical meltdown after her interview with Time magazine earlier this week. The 22-year-old Clark was named Athlete of the Year for 2024 after her breakthrough WNBA season, with Indiana Fever ignited wild interest in women's basketball. In her interview with the publication, Clark spoke about white privilege that fell her way as she entered the league and drove up the interest levels, comments that Whitlock, who until now has been a huge Clark supporter, said left him in tears. She just basically in this Time interview said, "Hey Whitlock, I don't like you. And all you evangelical conservatives that hopped on board with me, I'm with the Woke Basketball Association. I'm with the feminists. I'm with the lesbians," Whitlock said. Holy cow. I did cry this morning reading the Time magazine article. It's worse than just the excerpts. It is systematic, the destruction of her. She has been conquered, and I knew this was a possibility. I was halfway predicting this. And Caitlin Clark gets dropped into that. And she has got a boyfriend. And she is doing her best to stay out of politics. And we've seen other heterosexual women get dropped into the WNBA behind enemy lines. And they've come running and screaming out like, "Holy cow, are they hostile to women in the WNBA?" Whitlock then said Clark faced more challenges as a heterosexual white woman in the WNBA than Jackie Robinson, the first African American to play in Major League Baseball. In the very beginning, I wrote that what Clark was going to face was more difficult than what Jackie Robinson going into MLB in 1947. And people thought I was crazy. Whitlock said, "Robinson faced legitimate death threats, but in every other way, what Caitlin Clark was going to face going into the WNBA was going to be substantially more difficult." And look where we are 8 months later. Caitlin Clark waved the white flag, and she surrendered. Whitlock also had help from a colleague on his show in tearing down a poster of Clark from the wall in his studio. He replaced it with a picture of Clark's WNBA rival, Sophie Cunningham. And in a remark about Cunningham's appearance, Whitlock said, "I will say this, if Sophie goes woke, she is still staying up. I will say that." Indiana Fever rookie Caitlin Clark has been named Time's Athlete of the Year. Clark's rise to stardom has also brought the WNBA to new heights. An average of more than 2 million people tuned in to see Clark's WNBA debut with the Indiana Fever on ESPN, and her appearances have driven historic ticket sales for the league. More people watched the WNBA championship game this year than each game the NBA Finals or MLB's World Series. The 22-year-old was picked first by the Indiana Fever in the WNBA draft, just days after leading Iowa to the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship game, breaking the all-time college scoring record in the process. Clark started in all 40 regular season games with the Fever, averaging 19.2 points and a league-leading 8.4 assists. Her stellar play helped the Fever reach the WNBA playoffs for the first time since 2016. Clark was named WNBA Rookie of the Year in a nearly unanimous vote in October. Along the way time writes, Clark has energized both the league and its surging fan base. "You feel powerful," Clark told the magazine. "Instantly, everybody goes crazy. People are invested in the game. They love the game, and that's what makes it so fun for me. These people aren't supporting women's sports to check a box. It's going to be the new normal."